and now I have really the great pleasure to introduce Professor Alatalu, who has been very much beloved and respected professor for many people in Estonian universities for generations. He's a professor, he's a politician, he's a journalist, he's a historian, and I am sure he will have a very interesting approach on the post-Brexit Europe and the international relations.
Of the great power, and of course his point of view differs from those who are representing the small countries, and I will add to this information which was given by Madame Oiland only one thing, that my most famous academic paper is dedicated to the history of the Tuva Republic, which is a very small entity now inside of the Russian Federation, but which was independent state from 1921 till 1944. And last week my daughter, who was on conference in Russia, she was informed that my article was even published in Indonesia. So I am very proud to hear such news, that the problems of the national statehood, which is the problem of all small countries, was kept interest also in this area very far from here. My report differs from my predecessors in this sense that I am looking more forward and in concrete way. Let's say for me the Brexit, it is already a process which is going on, but I am looking for the new Brexits in European and Eurasian scale. And the title of my presentation, it's not moving. I find in the book of Zbigniew Brzezinski, famous representative of the political science, and in his book, The Grand Chessboard, which was written and published in 1997. And the problem what I find there was that he was the man who was the first to use the term Eurasian Balkan. Eurasian Balkan, not simply Balkan. And we know that the Balkan is located in Europe. But he explained in 10 pages such a phenomenon as Eurasian Balkan. And for him, the Eurasian Balkan countries were 5 Central Asian Soviet or former Soviet republics, 3 former Soviet republics in South Caucasus, and as the ninth member of this group, he mentioned Afghanistan. This paper was written in 1997, and I am here also presenting the term, what does it mean, Balkanization, as for most it is the process of fragmentation or division of a region or state into smaller regional states, which is taking place concerning the leaving of United Kingdom from the European Union. There are in fact 2 scenarios of the future Balkanization. The first is going on in Europe. After the Great Britain, it is possible to speak about Catalonia. Maybe it's the most potential place. Padania, for someone it means the North Italy. And another Balkanization theoretically will take place in this region which is called as Eurasia. And here are also 2 potential regions. The first is the so-called European Union applicants and potential applicants region, which in fact means the Western Balkan, where are located 6 republics, and this term also unites the possibilities of Turkey to join the European Union. And another group, it is the so-called Eastern Partnership, which was called by Estonia as one of the privileged topics during our chairmanship in the European Union, and which consists from 6 republics together with these Russian militaries-dominated entities as Transnistria, Abkhazia, South Ossetia, etc. This term, applicants and potential applicants, is an official term of the European Union. And I myself composed a report which was adopted by the Committee of Regions of the European Union just on the 13th of May, only months ago. And it was dedicated to the possibilities of the EU enlargement in the area of the ex-Yugoslavia. Now, these 6 countries are Serbia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Kosovo, Montenegro, Macedonia, and Albania, and maybe the most interesting in this moment is that starting 2014, there are also organized Western Balkan countries summits, and until now they had taken place in Berlin, in Vienna, in Paris. In next week, at the end of the next week, it will take place in Trieste, which means Italy. But the most interesting thing is that at the next meeting of the EU applicants countries will take place in London. And Madame Theresa May, on 9th of March, when he told to the European summit in Brussels, she confirmed that yes, Great Britain is leaving, but she at the same time invited leaders of the Western Balkan countries to meet next year in London. And EU leaders accepted this proposal. And now it is very interesting to ask, what will be the message of Madame May next year, when the Brexit process is practically finished, or let's say close to the finish? What she will say to the leaders of the Western Balkan countries? Please go on with preparations to join the European Union, or it's better for you to remain out. Maybe Sir Howard is able to say what will be the proposal by Madame May. Well, I will wait later to give him a chance to respond to these questions, but it is quite strange situation, and also the behavior of the European Union leaders, including German Chancellor and French President, who was, then there was the old President, of course, but it is still unclear what they will propose for Balkan leaders. In fact, Western Balkan has 2 choices more, because there is now already existing, functioning, and inviting to take part such a union as Eurasian Economic Union, which was in fact proposed already by the then Kazakhstan leader Nazarbayev in 1994, and Vladimir Putin repeated his proposal and started to organize this union in 2011. The main events took place in 2014, in spring, summer, and we all know that then also the process of Euromaidan in Ukraine started, and the problem was linked with the possibility Ukraine will join this process or Ukraine will go to the European Union. And at that moment, the Kremlin started to play chess, using the word by Brzezinski, but what kind of play are playing others, it is difficult to say, because Russia succeeded quickly in different directions. Occupation and annexation of Crimea, project of the Novorossiya from south of Ukraine till Transnistria. Then, thanks to the negotiations, Armenia also decided to join this Eurasian Economic Union. A year later, Serbia concluded free trade agreement with this Eurasian Union, about what I will say later. In the territory of Serbia was opened Russian rescue operation space, which is also treated practically on the same level as other Russian military bases in abroad. Last year, on presidential elections in Moldova, winner was the person who openly agitated and is agitating in favor of this Eurasian Economic Union. And also don't forget the ties between Eurasian Economic Union and Latin America. If we are speaking about the Central American countries and about the last visit of the President of Brasilia to Moscow. The second choice for Western Balkan countries is linked, to my mind, with such a movement as non-aligned countries movement, ONAM movement, which was created in 1961, and maybe the most famous leader and founder of this movement was President, or the then President of Yugoslavia, Josip Broz Tito. And this movement was founded in Belgrade, which is also important. If we are speaking about the so-called fake news media, it is quite typical that they are trying during the last decades even not mention that there is such a movement as non-aligned movement. And it is so strange because the last three summits of these movements had taken place in the oil and gas-rich countries. In 2012, in capital of Iran, in 2016, on the island Margarita in Venezuela, and Venezuela is now chairman of this movement, which is representing 120 countries. And very often we are reading that Venezuela's president, Maduro, who has a lot of troubles at home, but he is permanently proposing something new concerning the oil and gas prices. And he is doing not it alone. He is doing it as a leader of this non-aligned movement. It is his obligation. And behind him is, once more, 120 countries. But the most important thing is that the next summit of the non-alignment movement will take place in Baku, in Azerbaijan. And we are all informed well about the possibilities and abilities of the Azerbaijan current leader. 2 years ago, the European Games took place in Baku. There was a lot of criticism. It's a dictatorial regime, etc., etc. But everyone was ready to go and to take part. Just a week ago, the Formula One competitions for the second year is taking place in Baku. Everyone is going, etc. And to hold the summit of the non-alignment movements in Baku, it means that the movement is returning back to the Europe. As the first summit took place in Belgrade in 1961. And now, 2019, it's returning back to the Europe. As the European Union, which in its first enlargement document in 2003 declared that Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, they are outside of Europe. They are not in Europe. Very stupid declaration. But now for everyone is clear that Azerbaijan is Europe. And this such a strong movement is returning back to the Europe. For Brzezinski in his famous book, Azerbaijan was called as a pivot. And now it is clear that it is already a regional leader, and its importance will rise. We've taken over the chairmanship in the non-alignment movement. And what is the difference between NAM and others international organization is that the chairmanship starts after holding of the summit, not before. And it means that Azerbaijan will dominate on the European level starting 2019 till 2022. And to my mind, the best positioning for Baku would be to be alone. Not to go more closer to European Union and not to have more closer relations with Eurasian Economic Union. And about history, well, the current regime is, we all know what it is. But don't forget that, in fact, Azerbaijan was the first democratic Muslim republic in the world. Now there is competition because the Crimean Tatars are also saying that they did the same, but their republic was short-living as Azerbaijan Republic functioned 2 years. Now returning back to the Western Balkan, I put the question, maybe we will find the next pivot or the next leader, the next Brexit, in this sense that you will have your own foreign policy and you have not so much linked with the other organizations and great powers. Maybe we will find the next pivot in the Balkan countries. As I told, I was composed of the last document adopted by the Committee of Regions on 13th of May. I wrote there also about the statement of the current leaders of the European Union, and Mr. Juncker declared already immediately after being elected as leader of the European Commission that there will be no enlargement during his mandate, which lasts until 2019. And as during 6 months, I met permanently with the ambassadors as minimum, and with politicians from all Western Balkan countries. I must say that they all are very disappointed with the behavior of the EU leaders. Happily, something changed because they themselves understood that it is stupid, let's say, even not to visit these countries. And if you are now looking on news, everyday news, now practically all of the EU commissars and also the Estonian ministers are permanently traveling on the Balkan. Now it's better to go later than not to go. But the situation is still unclear, and thanks to this stupid statement by Juncker and others, the situation was immediately used by Russia. And all these campaigns which are taking place there now, all these anti-EU, anti-NATO, anti-United States activities, behind of them, it's clear, is Russia, which is using its possibilities thanks to the common heritage, thanks to Orthodox Christianity, etc. And only one thing to put your attention, that there was a great idea in 2006 to proclaim the independence of the Kosovo, but it was delayed. As it was delayed, the recognition of the results of the elections which were carried out in Palestine autonomy in 2006. Both events took place only in 2008, which means that it was made after the Putin's famous speech in Munich Security Conference. After that, when Russia already declared, I am ready to defend my interests in the world, I am ready to say that you must treat us as equal partner, etc. And this changed the situation significantly. In June last year, it was signed a free trade agreement between Serbia and the Eurasian Economic Union. And as historian, let's make a parallel. To my mind, it is something similar to the agreement which was between the famous Soviet economic organization, Soviet Ekonomické Взаимопомощи, in English, Comecon, and Finland. All others were socialist countries, and one was the capitalist one. And this treaty functioned, or agreement functioned. And now it is proposed practically the same. And the last thing, why I am speaking so much about Serbia, to my mind, if after the Brexit, the next more or less independent foreign policy maker in Eurasia or in Europe will be Azerbaijan. After him, the next, to my mind, will be Serbia. As minimum, there is a potential for that. And there is one event more. In 2021, it will be celebrated, the 60th anniversary of foundation of the non-alignment movement. And of course, it will take place in Belgrade. So the importance of the Serbia in foreign policy making in Europe as independent player will raise. Well, after such serious information, let's speak a little about the funniest side of policy making. We are now sitting in Estonian National Library. In fact, it is a very historic place for some international organizations. And the most interesting thing for me when I started to prepare this report, and I used the Google, I find that today, on 28th of June, also is taking place a sitting in the Scottish Parliament, in United Kingdom, in Edinburgh. And this is a sitting of 13th General Assembly of the UNPO. It is not United Nations. It means unrepresented nations and peoples organization. This organization was founded here in Estonia. It's Estonian-born international organization, still functioning. And it was founded in Tartu, but two of which General Assemblies took place in Tallinn. the 5th in 1997 and the 6th in 2001, and it took place on the next hall, in the same building, in the next hall. And now the 17th is taking place in Scottish Parliament. Well, what kind of organization it is? According to the name, it's uniting those peoples and nations who don't have their own statehood, officially recognized statehood. And the rule is that if these entities, territories are admitted to the United Nations, they will leave this Jumbo movement, as we did Estonia, who was among the co-founders of this organization after we became member of the United Nations. In 1990s, what is simple to remind, this organization had two working languages. One was English and another was Russian, because the main participators of these organizations were from the current Russian federations. They were representatives of such a national republics and units as Chechnya, Ingushetia, Tatarstan, Udmurtia, Mariel, Tuva, my favorite area, including Indian Finns, etc. No, among representatives from other countries, please, President of Costa Rica was here in Tallinn, and also another president on another occasion, Oduber, Tangen, in 97. Now in 21st century, this organization has only one working language. It's English. Because here in Tallinn, in this, not in the hall of the former Sakala Center, where the 5th Congress took place, there was an idea that the next leader of the UNPO will be Linnart Mell, you must know, older generation. But he was not elected, as none of the proposed persons were then elected, because the Sakala Center was full of Russian diplomats, all Russian embassy was there, and using the majority of delegates who had arrived from Asia, Africa, and especially in Arab countries, all, let's say, European candidates were defeated. And as leader was elected, let's say, representative of Zanzibar Island, and they also find a very interesting person from Sweden. There then was quickly formed such a separatist movement as Free Scania, Free Skåne. No one knew this person earlier, but in Tallinn he was elected as vice chairman, etc. And due to it, it's possible to say that Russia crushed this Russian side, Russian part organization then in 97, 98. And due to it, now this organization is speaking in English, its leader is Italian, and what they were discussing yesterday and on Monday in Edinburgh, two topics are mentioned: South Mongolia, where is it located? It's of course China, but it's politically correct to say South Mongolia. And another main topic, Oromo. Where is located Oromo? It's Ethiopia. So it's clear that now they are totally discussing other topics, but not this was important for me.
I'm sorry, Thomas.
Yes.
Yes, we are running out of the time. I guess you have also questions in the hall. Can you make conclusions?
Unhappily, our British friends have left. Someone knows what does it mean, Ellen Vannin. Of course, no one don't know it. But that is Isle of Man. which is located between United Kingdom and France. It's, of course, territory of the England. But what the UNPO is now doing, aside political activities, it is also organizing football tournaments, because football is for everyone. And the first football tournament took place in Sweden, 2014, and the second took place in Sukhumi, which is capital of Abkhazia. And so to assure that, let's say, European Union members also will send their representatives to such a football tournament, Russia even was in favor to support Abkhazia in sense of its membership in the UNPO. And all teams were invited, but at last moment, in May 2016, United Kingdom Foreign and Commonwealth Office asked officially that this football team from Isle of Man will not go to Abkhazia. It was official political position of United Kingdom. But now the situation is such that the next UNPO tournament will take place in 2018, and the capital of the South Ossetia is inviting them to come. And of course the situation is same as 2 years ago. So it's possible to say, to returning to this word I started, it is a chess play. Now the play is going on. And of course the European Union countries and those who prefer to leave this unit must take new political decisions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Toomas, for this really great geopolitical journey, and of course football and politics and chess, probably they all mixed and linked. But I have one comment on your very first question, that why the meeting of applicant countries from Balkans may take place or will take place in London. Maybe Mrs. May will have a proposal to those countries to join the British Commonwealth. Because the British Commonwealth is still a very big power in the world. Like, they have 20% of the world territory, they have a huge GDP, 14% of the world's GDP is coming from the Commonwealth organization. So maybe that is the reason behind that. I give you a new thought, but maybe in the whole there are also some questions to Professor Alatalu. Hillar has asked already several questions, maybe there is someone else? Yes, okay, we take just the very short questions, and in 5 minutes we go to the coffee break, otherwise we will be trouble here.
Thanks. As we know, Mr. Juncker, Jean-Claude, will be tomorrow in Tallinn. If you have possibility as a representative of Estonia to talk to him, what will you say to him?
Welcome to Tallinn, of course. And next question, why you are against the enlargement of the rights of the parliament, national parliaments? Because I will add only one fact more. In our case, it was solved in such a way that the right to say something as the Parliamentary Committee of the European Affairs. It was also, let's say, a compromise, because it must be normal that all decisions will be adopted by the Parliament in full size, not by its committee. So we already, or let's say the previous content of the Parliament made such a mistake. There was no need to solve the problem in such a way. So all depends also from us, not from the stupid demands by the European Union leaders. Thanks.
it's now 2 o'clock and I don't see any more questions in the hall, or there is one? Okay.
At the registration desk we were given some paper. Am I right that it was by Igor Rasin?
Yes.
But he states here that the raison d'etre of the EU doesn't exist anymore, and he states that keeping the peace on the continent failed in Ukraine, Georgia, the Balkans, Calgacus. What do you think? Was it possible to make something different, to make something more to avoid that kind of conflicts, which are caused by the collapse of Soviet system, of course?
Well, I will say in such a way. The first slide, which was demonstrated by Sir Howard, I don't see him. There was shown that the British Navy arrived in 1918 to Estonia to help us, Estonians. But in fact, and you agree with me, then in Tallinn was also located the government of the Northwest Russia, headed by Lianosov. And it in fact was, let's say, a double policy in this sense, because there was need to support concrete forces inside of Russia, and at the same time support also the Estonian independence. So the general picture, in fact, is very complicated. But I already mentioned one thing concerning these rights of the Estonian parliament or its committee. They are totally different things. And not only Estonians made mistakes. The same was done by several countries, and there was need all time to be more contact with as minimum neighbors. And let's ask also a simple question, which I did all time when I was in parliament. What is the position, let's say, on the same issue of Latvia or of Lithuania or Finland? Our reports never propose us to make changes in legislation, etc. I'm mentioning what are doing our neighbors. And it is our weak side. As small countries, we must cooperate more among us, because the great powers have all time their own policy and own interests. It's my response.
Well, thank you very, very much, Professor Alatalu, indeed.